Hey YouTube, it's another perfect day in God's country, and I ain't lying. Thank you to each and every one of you for taking yet another moment out of your day to hang out with me, Lucky Haskins, the narcissist, the egomaniac, for yet another moment of truth. Man, do I appreciate each and every one of you taking a moment out of your day to give me a chance to scowl at the world. Hear me say my piece. Give you my version of the truth, the correct version of our reality, if you don't mind me saying. That's why I'm a narcissist. I'm not here to bullshit anybody. All right, all the way down to the tips of my nicotine-stained fingers. I am resonating with truth this morning. I'm here to lay it on you guys straight. The Blue Origin Fakery. What's it all about? The masters of propaganda, the brilliant owners and controllers of the information, which is the biggest weapon used against human beings. Always has been, always will be. Everybody's afraid of. What are people afraid of? Guns, bombs, viruses, blah, blah, blah. The only weapon they've ever needed was information, folks. Information is what you should fear. Misinformation is what you should reject. That means it's this simple, folks. If it's not provable reality, just reject it until it is. It's that simple. Nobody has to be fooled. They're all allowing themselves to be fooled. This whole flat earth globe discussion, let Lucky narrow it right down to what it is. As a propaganda discussion, which is all that it is. Let me summarize it for you. My listeners all know I have a certain fixation for the F-Series truck series from Ford. I like my F-Series Ford trucks from about 1972 through, years ago I would have told you through 96 or 97 would be it. However, the Super Duty series that Ford made, for the 250s, the Super Duties, I don't like Ford pickup trucks 150s from 97 on. I don't want one. I don't want a Ford F-150 from 97 on. And I'd recommend y'all stay away from them too. Not that they're horrible trucks. They're as good as the rest of them. But the F-250s, the Super Duties, were really good trucks. I can vouch for them being great trucks, at least through 2006. I don't much know what they've done to them all from there, but if you can get your hands on a clean Super Duty, the only thing you really need to be aware of is rust and corrosion. I don't really care how many miles it has. If you can find yourself like an 01, 02, 03, 04 Ford F-250 Super Duty that's not rusted out and doesn't have a lot of corrosion problems, you've got a really good truck that could last you the rest of your life if you want to maintain it, keep it from rotting away. That's the trick. But those 5.4 Fords that they were making those years, I don't know if they still make them, but coupled on that Super Duty F-250, those are just beasts, man. Excellent transmissions, excellent motors, excellent frames, excellent trucks. You can barely kill them. You have to work really hard to kill one of those, really. Of course, like anything, they'll need some maintenance. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up, let me just give an example of how this globe propaganda works. It'd be like I'm outside in my driveway giving people a lecture on my 86 Ford F-250 four-wheel drive and going, this is 1986. This was the first year that EFI was available in this 302 here. And it was an option in those years, and I could be going on. And then, here comes McToon walking down the street and goes, hey, man, I had one of those. That F-250 can fly. I'm like, what? Mine don't fly, man. No, that's not. I'm just giving these people the facts. It was built in Detroit. It was here and that. Blah, blah, blah. Here's the transmission that's in it. It's got this rear end in it. No, man, it can fly. It can fly. You're just dumb if you don't know it can fly. Okay, so this is how the globe Earth starts. They came along and said, it can fly, your truck can fly. And then people are like, it doesn't really make no sense. That would disagree with experiment, and there'd be anomalous science, of course, right? End of discussion, right? Boom. Okay, we all know it can't fly. Nope. What's McToon going to say? Well, prove it can't, you dumb flurf. If you can't prove that your F-250 can't fly, you don't have conclusive proof. Where's your map? Where's your model? If you can't conclusively prove that your F-250 can't fly, then the default position is that it can fly. Okay, that's what the globe Earth is, folks. It's that ridiculous. And it just kills me that people can't understand and they still pretend there's debates and this and that. Belief versus objective reality. And the whole globe belief, every time they go and they think they're proving their globe, it just boils down to prove it's not. If you can't prove it's not a globe, then you're a dumb flurf. Which, of course, the globe is provably false, folks, but they have beliefs that keep them from latching on to the actual science. No. My belief conflicts with your science. It's a globe until proven otherwise. But we just proved it's not a globe. No, because I have another belief. I can stack on top of that belief, and those beliefs trump your science. Again, we know it's a globe. Outer space, San Bernardino's high school football rules. There's nothing you can do because we have an infinite universe. We can change our numbers all we want. It is a globe until you can prove it's not. Right. Okay, so that's where it's at, folks. The globe is a horrifically bad belief, been used to control society for a long, long time. Everybody that it comprehends the discussion knows there's no scientific verification of any globe Earth. It boils down to whether or not you believe in a fabricated, made-up place called outer space. Not even space travel, don't get me wrong. I hear people misquoting me and saying, well, yeah, you have to believe we went to outer space because that way you could turn around and see the ball. No, it's not about turning around and seeing the ball, folks. Outer space was made up to reverse engineer the math to pretend the Earth could be a globe. Okay, if there's no outer space, it's not a globe. You should know this. Outer space was made up mandatory. It was mandatory to pretend that the sun was so far away that it was irrelevant how far away it was. Duh. Okay, space was made up. Everybody on both sides should agree with that. If you have a problem because you believe in the globe, admitting that space was fabricated and made up to pretend the Earth could be a globe, that's why at that point, you're deceiving yourself. So why even join the conversation? Any glober that can't admit to themselves that space was made up to pretend that the sun could be millions and millions and millions of miles away, okay, it's fine if you believe that in the end they were right. That's fine. But if you can't admit to yourself that space was made up to reverse engineer the globe theory to pretend it could be real, if you can't admit to that to yourself, well, that's why you're still dazed and confused to this very moment in time. Of course, if you can't admit simple truths to yourself, how are you ever going to find reality? Okay? You're lost in a state of psychosis and you don't want to come home. That's just the way that goes. So let's talk about the Blue Origin propaganda. Last night, because, listen, folks, propaganda is what I'm fascinated with. Always have been. So this is really fascinating to me. Although, yes, just like all of you guys, I am sick and tired of hearing about the Blue Origin Fakery and the fake women with their fake faces, faking space in their fake capsule, blah, blah, blah. I'm tired of it like everyone else. And I had to dive into it last night. Not because I know the Earth is flat, but because I'm fascinated with propaganda. And something dawned on me last night when I was listening to, I went to a lot of normie type channels that are also saying, oh, this is horrible, blah, blah, blah. These women think they were astronauts, blah, blah, blah. Then I listened to flat earthers talking about it. Then I listened to globe earthers talking about it, which is freaking hilarious. Boy, I almost feel sorry for these globe earth channels right now. They are literally forced to pretend that Blue Origin space launch was real. Literally, they are forced to pretend that women got in that freaking little nose cone and a rocket ejected them at 2,400 miles an hour, 60 miles into the sky. For 11 minutes they were gone, which means the Earth should have moved back, 800 miles? Or 300 miles? I don't know. I'm just doing assumption math. I should maybe do the math before I speak. But the Earth should have moved a little bit, but they came down 3 miles from where they launched. Anyway, the globe earthers, man, they're forced to pretend This garbage is real. However, let's leave the globe earth, phony, propaganda for money channels out of it. Let's leave the flat earthers out of it. And let's go to the normies and the mainstream channels. And what are they all saying? After a while of looking at that last night, I spotted what I've talked about many, many times, runs through consistently through all of the major propaganda, what I like to call the JFK technique. Now, I can almost guarantee you the CIA has a proper name for this technique. For those of you who don't understand the role of the CIA and have been misled like most of the normies, the CIA is the entity that controls information that you receive. Their job is to control information. The CIA is responsible for all of the misinformation that is fed to you on a daily basis. Period. That's their job, to control information, the greatest weapon ever utilized by human beings. Period. And it's been so effective that human beings themselves can't understand or acknowledge or recognize that information is the weapon being used against them, and the only one they should be concerned about. Seriously, the only weapon you should be concerned about as a human being is information, period. So the CIA likely has a proper definition for what I call the JFK technique. What is the JFK technique? To give multiple arguments and sides to a story so that the actual fakery and the deception is such a small portion of the topic that it doesn't even get addressed. And the debate of the two faulty arguments that were injected into your brains anyway, the CIA implants those two arguments. The grassy knoll. It wasn't Oswald, man. There was multiple shooters, man. Okay. No, it was Oswald. No, it was the CIA. No, man, it was the Jews. No, man, it was the Russians. Okay? The CIA implants all of those ideas into your head through the black box and the pocket wireless, like they told you in 1904, 1905 they were going to do. Okay, they implant all those thoughts into your head, and then you go to the water cooler or the internet, which is the new water cooler, and you argue about the frivolous information. And what does that do? Perpetuates the propaganda, makes it stick, makes it real, makes it seem important. Like I've told you a million times, nobody killed JFK. It's a television show, a fake presidential assassination on television. Right when everybody's getting their TVs in their home, they did that one in 1963. Right as the American population's all getting televisions in their home, they get to watch their own president get shot on TV. How cool. Nice. Okay. So the only intelligent, correct answer is nobody killed JFK. It was a television show. So what do? The CIA gives multiple pieces of information for people to chew on and fight. They put out mass amounts of misinformation, just like we saw in 9/11. They even released books. Hey, here's the 9/11 fakery, right? We knew the planes were coming. The government knew the hijackers were bringing the planes. Limited hangouts, faulty information, blah, 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 blah. When the only true answer about JFK is nobody killed JFK. They use this technique for everything. The Titanic, the Edmund Fitzgerald. 3 stories. Okay? Faulty equipment. No. Bad job. The guys didn't lock the hatches. No, of course not. That was my dad on that boat. Of course he locked the hatches. Third one, it just broke in half. Bad weather, right? Okay? Now, what does that keep you from doing? That makes it stick. That makes any propaganda they want to really stick, that makes it stick. By the way, Edmund Fitzgerald, why? Same reason as the Bermuda Triangle in Florida, folks. NASA had a launch site up here at the tip of the Keweenaw Peninsula. During the Apollo missions, the rockets, according to my estimation, if you look at the map and look at where they were launching them from, where are they going to be? Right about where the Edmund Fitzgerald is. In my opinion, it's right near the Canadian border. It might even be partially in the Canadian border. I think that was the mistake. That's what happened. And so they had to make it non-diveable. It's the only place in Lake Superior you can't dive. And of course, the normies, the people that love the faulty globe, it's a globe unless you prove it's not. Your truck can fly unless you prove it can't, right? These people, that are gone because of this trauma-based mind control and indoctrination, what are they instantly going to say when I say, yeah, you can't dive on the Edmund Fitzgerald because it would disrespect the dead, Lucky? And of course, another statement from ignorance that they were told to say, taught to say, and conditioned to say, instead of them going, well, that's weird because there's thousands of shipwrecks in Lake Superior and most of them still have dead bodies because they don't rise in Lake Superior. Thousands of shipwrecks. There's likely thousands and thousands of bodies down there. You can go dive, you can find them, no problem, no disrespect there. But you can't dive where NASA's rockets are laying. Why? Because they told the populace that they launched 2 rockets into outer space from the Keweenaw Peninsula in 71, I think. So, did those rockets go to outer space? Of course not. They did the same thing every rocket they launched. Did a big curve and went into Lake Superior. It went kind of far, and it's almost in Canadian waters, or it's on the border. That was the issue, in my opinion. If it was just out in Lake Superior, purely in American waters, nothing would have had to been said. Nobody would have ever noticed. No big frickin' deal. But I believe the whole big stink was that it was in Canadian waters, so they had now involved another country. And of course, all the countries are run by the same group, but there's always has to be this facade. And each country has real employees. They couldn't have a Canadian Coast Guard guy going, hey, look at this, we got some NASA rockets down here. That wasn't going to work out, okay? There still are real people doing their job that might stumble into stuff, of course. We all know this. For those of you who don't understand the world of compartmentalization and how the Jesuits are able to own and control and run all systems, sorry, it's a big, you're missing way too many pieces of the puzzle to enter the discussion about propaganda. So, the Blue Origin, the fakery, when you watch it from a normie's perspective, what are they arguing? What is it always leading to? Here's the running theme. They're a course, because you got to wonder, why did they make these women look so ridiculous? Why did they make the launch look so ridiculous? Why did they intentionally show that? They could have edited that out, right? All of that shit's intentional. They intentionally made sure that anybody with any critical thought would know this is a big pile of horse shit propaganda. People that understand what propaganda really is know that the whole thing is fabricated. Nobody got the nose cone and got launched off the earth anywhere. Of course, it's all fake, folks. However, for whatever stance you take on that, here's how it affects the normies. It is actually reinforcing outer space. Hear me out. By the masses going, look at this piece of horseshit. Any mainstream channel, any presenter that you see, you know how they're going to address this? It's disrespectful to the real astronauts. Whoa, Lucky's starting to spot the JFK technique. Oh, it's fake. Oh, it's real. Blah, 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 blah. No, what are the normies going to always think about propaganda as how does it affect the normies? Not the flat earthers, not the people that already know they're being hit by propaganda around every corner. But what about the normies that have no idea what propaganda is, and they think that if all these people gathered around a big rocket on television, that it was real, that they think these women really got in this nose cone, really went up there and really came down. So what are they doing? They're saying, well, this is disrespectful to the real astronauts. Get it, folks? It's actually promoting that space is somehow real. That real astronauts went there back in the day. Real men with the right stuff. Even though they too were wearing a Freemasonic Baphomet patch. They had the right stuff. They were real. Those were the real guys back then. So you see what they're doing with this, folks? It is the JFK technique, the Edmund Fitzgerald technique. People are going to banter about this Blue Origin thing till they're blue in the face. And all it is promoting is that real men went to actual outer space many times. That is the trick. It's the JFK technique. So no, they don't care that the world can see how fake this is and all of that, because the masses are so far gone, folks. They think the television is real and it's just a story. I was listening to Austin speak the other day, and I don't rip on Austin. I never will. I always got respect for the man. I did caution people back in the day. Told you, I just stumbled into him 3 years ago or something, and I told everybody, look, he's really young, man. Never, everybody, he's so smart, he's so smart. And I always say, yeah, man. But don't forget, he applies himself. It's not the words smart, the words intelligent. Those are strange words to me, man. Those are strange words. I try not to use them, certainly when not addressing myself, right? But listen, application. Like, do people apply themselves? When you look at who's most successful in this world at this or that or this or that, they don't have to be the smartest or the most intelligent. They had to apply themselves more than everyone else. That's how it works, folks. Austin came to the flat earth community and he applied himself more than anyone else. He dug into all of the writings of all of the scientists, did a fantastic job. He is also smart, intelligent, whatever the words people want to use, but it's mostly experienced in application. The dude dove in with his heart and soul and made himself an expert. Okay? Hat tip, like I always tell you guys. It's brilliant. However, everybody should always remember that he's very young. What do you lack when you're young? You lack experience. So Austin is making this move, like starting to talk about politics and other propaganda. And that's when all that inexperience and youngness really shows through. My whole joke about calling me the super duper trooper truther is because when Austin said that Kanye West wearing a bag over his head on Alex Jones was 100% real, and if you just wanted to say, oh, this is just a fake show, then you were a super duper trooper truther. And I instantly the next day said, hey, super duper trooper truther coming to you from the UP. That makes me the super duper trooper youper truther. That's so hard to say. That makes me the super duper youper trooper truther because, of course, Kanye West with a bag over his head on InfoWars is fake. Folks, it's all a show. This whole black box was invented to give you misinformation. Why am I bringing up Austin? Is Lucky going to rip on Austin? No, man. I'm just pointing out, listen, I heard Austin talking away about propaganda and Epstein, which again, I'm just going to tell you, Epstein, it's all a show, folks. So he segued into the Clinton-Monica Lewinsky scandal and chirped off a propaganda-based, misinformation-based reason. Claimed that some folks had some dirt on him, so they did the Monica Lewinsky scandal against him as like a warning shot, saying, look, we can destroy you, anything like this. Now, allow me to remind you guys that I was debunking the Monica Lewinsky scandal in real time, live, pissing off a lot of people as I was running around telling everybody, are you kidding me? I can't believe you guys are falling for this shit. Something is very wrong. This is some obvious, very detrimental and destructive propaganda. Okay, it was obvious to me. However, nobody wanted to listen, even way back then. So now I've watched all that develop. Now, what's the mistake that Austin is making here? Timelines. I've told you guys this over and over. They're not on our timeline. This useless, frivolous information that they're feeding us, feeding me, feeding Austin, feeding all of us, okay? Feeding Jaron. They're feeding it to all of us. They are doing this on a 200 or 300 year timeline. We all ingest it, not me, but we're human beings ingest it as if it has relevance to their lifetime and their daily thing. Now, I saw when Clinton scandal, that was an absolute turning point. It was like when a band releases a new record and changes music forever, like when Hendrix came out, okay? That's what that was to a guy who was already, don't forget, I was born in 69, okay? So when the Monica Lewinsky propaganda came on, I could see it clear as a bell. This is highly destructive propaganda, destructive to the American society, to our country. What in the hell are they doing? Nobody gave a shit. Nobody listened to me. I didn't really piss a lot of people off until I told them the Dale Earnhardt, the day after Earnhardt faked his death, I was in a shop telling all the guys, oh, that was so obviously fake. Man, I almost got lynched for that one. That's when I realized, ooh, there are triggering points. Believe me, folks, talking about the truth before that didn't trigger anybody. Nobody cared about chemtrails. Nobody gave a shit the Monica Lewinsky thing was fake as could be, okay? But here, listen, I'm just here to tell you, am I saying Austin's totally wrong? No, I'm sure he caught that propaganda on the wind. But let me lay it down for you. When you take the human timeline out of it, folks, the Trump propaganda is the biggest presidential propaganda ever in my lifetime, by far, not even a close second. They've been working on the Trump propaganda for 40 years in real time right before my eyes, okay? I'm going to get to that too in a minute here because I have to wonder what's next. Let's talk about that in a minute. When you want to talk about propaganda, I got a bombshell to drop on y'all. But anyway, 40 years they pushed this Trump propaganda up. The Clinton scandal was right in the middle of them pushing Trump, fluffing him up. He's fixing the ice rink in New York, all this kind of shit. He's all over the television, all this kind of shit. They were working on the Trump propaganda my whole lifetime. It's the biggest, most important propaganda there ever was. Trump Biden, big old fucking joke on TV, right? Absolute smear fest on our own television. A joke to the whole world. People in this truth community do not have the experience with propaganda to understand the Clinton propaganda was to lay this foundation. People can't see this. Nobody was after Clinton. It's a fucking show. Austin Whitsitt, with all due respect, it's a show. Okay? It's a show. The Clinton propaganda was the first time American news media absolutely just smeared our president and made him the laughingstock and a total buffoon. That paved the way for, in America we have outstanding journalism. Our journalism is so good, we won't even let our president get away with getting a blowjob, man. We bust everything, okay? Now, when you fast forward to the whole presidential elections are absolute comedy-filled shit shows, can you not put two and two together and see why they had to do Clinton? They lay this shit down in such a brilliant, genius manner. Allow me to say this again. The Clinton scandal was the first time. Now, I don't want to hear everybody go, yeah, Nixon. It was nothing similar, not at the same level. A political scandal regarding politics and paperwork and stolen documents, nothing compared to the Monica Lewinsky scandal, where suddenly the American president is a buffoon. If you watched all of the live stuff, they made him look like a buffoon. For those of you who don't know, I met Bill Clinton multiple times, shook his hand. He stood on my stage many times, okay? The guy was a dignified dude in the early days, and the first time I met him, I knew he'd be president. I'm like, man, is this dude he was extremely charismatic and very kind to me, ironically. I'm just a fucking stagehand. He was very kind to me. Well, who are you, young man? Reached out his hand. That was before he was the president. I swear, I was in my early 20s or something. Anyway, whatever. I met the dude, and I'm still telling you, it's all a show. It's fake. Okay? The Monica Lewinsky Bill Clinton scandal clearly paved the way for the buffoonery to come because it's all been planned. Epstein, oh, they killed him. It's all a show. Stop it. That's my opinion, okay? That's my opinion. So, again, man, when we talk about people that are smart, they're intelligent, with all due respect, there is no substitute for experience, and I cannot tell you guys enough that they are not on our timeline. None of the little agitations that we make, this flat earth movement, this globe earth movement, all controlled. We are blips in their timeline, and everybody just playing their role, man. Playing their role. That's my opinion, okay? That's what Monica Lewinsky was about. Not they had dirt on him, so they're going to kind of expose him because he's hanging out with Epstein. Come on, folks. These are actors. If people don't understand that the world is controlled by one group of people, if people don't understand what the hidden hand is, if people don't understand, what are you supposed to say? If you bring up the word Freemason to a Globie, they mock it. And they're mocking their own ignorance, right? No, Trump's making the decisions, man. Yeah, Trump's making decisions. Give me a break. You're fired. Trump ain't making any decisions, folks. This stuff was planned and written for years and years and years. By the way, speaking of the Trump propaganda, this is where I want to drop a little bombshell. I don't know if anyone's given this any thought. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's thought about this. I told you guys that I made a mistake as a truther, 9 years ago or something, whenever Trump was running for the first time. And I said, of course he's going to be president. They've been working on this propaganda for 40 years. And I said, in fact, it was such important propaganda, he's going to be our last president. I made that statement. He's going to be the last American president. That was a dumb statement. And one of my friends called me out on it after Biden was in office. And so anyway, as truthers, and the truth community was pretty new back then. And I just made a mistake. And I said, hey, he's going to be our last president. Although, who knows? I might turn out to be right. But here's what I think about. They spent all those years working on the Trump propaganda, knowing what they were going to do. It's all been unleashed. The full fury of the Democrats versus Republicans, the drooling on themselves liberals with 17 nose piercings and purple hair versus the right-wing whack jobs that are racist bastards. Whatever. Okay. They brought it to full fruition. The Trump propaganda is going to come to an end. Although, folks, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if they find a way to continue the Trump propaganda after he's out of office. But what I'm trying to bring up is me calling a bombshell is they haven't prepped anybody for the next slots. There has been no massive pieces of propaganda, although maybe Elon, right? Is that what they're going to do? Is Elon got to be the next president? Or what other moves can they make, folks? They have not propped anybody up. They have not. Okay, so this kind of worries Lucky. Like, what? They have no plans after Trump? Or is something fixing to happen during this Trump administration where they didn't feel the need to focus on lots of propaganda for the future? Now, I will say this. If there's something brewing, it would probably be Elon Musk versus Gretchen Whitmer. If there's something brewing. But still, folks, I mean, there's like no propaganda going on the Democratic side. And the only propaganda that I could really spot on the Republican side as far as really fluffing somebody up would have to be Elon, right? But my God, folks, do you really think we'd put Elon Musk in as a president? They might, eh? People are gone. And it is long gone. Anyway, I just want to say that I didn't end up watching the rest of, with all due respect, I should watch the rest of what Austin had to say before I wasn't trying to rip on him. I'm just making a correction because those kind of mistakes are, in my opinion, are huge. Okay, you have to scrap your human being timeline, first of all, to understand what they're doing. And, I can't really give you a better example than Trump. I mean, if you think that when Trump was in his 20s and he was on television and they're interviewing him and he's saying, well, if I ever do run for president, it'll be a Democrat because Republicans are so fucking stupid. Right? If you guys can't realize that that's propaganda for a pre-written script, that these folks, for a couple of 100 years at least, are not working on our timeline. Everybody wants to come up with the B-tier reason for the propaganda. I'm telling you, ain't looking nearly far enough. I don't know if y'all remember, I made a video once about Michelson Morley. Think about the Michelson Morley propaganda. Still, is that the JFK technique, folks? Still, people are going, no, it's about the ether. No, it proved there's no motion. No, they scrapped the ether. People acknowledge they scrapped the ether, but they won't acknowledge they also scrapped mass versus mass, and they had to. The Glovers just won't let that one go. We have to keep pretending that mass attracts mass. We have to, man. It's really all we had. I know, but you had to give that up to get rid of the ether. Sorry, guys. Now you cling to warped space-time. What a fool's game, eh? However, but prove it's not. Yeah, prove your truck can't fly, Lucky. You dumb flurf. Okay, well, there's that. Okay, so, but look, man, when you start looking at how much they propped up Trump and all of this for all those years, and nobody else has been propped up, worries me a little bit. What's coming next? Do they have a plan? Oh, I want to talk about Michelson Morley. Yeah, Michelson Morley. I simplify it way more than that, folks. Michelson Morley, late 1800s. JFK technique. It's about the ether. No, it's not. It's about motion. It's about the ether. It's about motion. They proved there was no ether. No, they proved there was no motion. No, they proved there was no ether. What does Lucky think Michelson Morley was about? They were about to introduce motorized flight into the populace. They had to do Michelson Morley. Otherwise, they'd have no argument. Okay? Everybody knows when you get in an airplane and you take off, it's 100% conclusive proof that we live on a flat and stationary plane. So they had to do Michelson Morley prior to releasing motorized flight out to the populace and pretending that a couple Freemasons invented it. Get it? They knew they were going to bring motorized flight. They done got rid of all the airships already, pushed them to the side, pretended they never existed, just made a tiny, like, oh, there was a couple of these, but they were dangerous. Right. Okay, cool. Now we're going to introduce motorized flight. Well, that's going to be a problem when people get up there and realize they don't live on a ball. Michelson Morley comes in. Ba, 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 ba. What does the populace do? Oh, it's about motion of the earth. It's about the ether. It's about the motion of the earth. It's about the ether. No, folks, human beings were about to get in airplanes and know for themselves that they live on a flat and stationary plane. All the pilots would know. The passengers would know. We need Einstein to come in and make up some serious horseshit. Serious horseshit. Yeah, you're right, folks. When you get on a plane and you fly, boy, it sure does look like a flat and stationary topographical plane, don't it? But space and time is warped, you idiots. Prove your truck can't fly, Lucky. Prove it. I'm sorry, folks. I just wanted to chirp a little bit about propaganda this morning. And you guys can't tell, man, I am just laughing at the world nowadays. I know my videos are getting kind of goofy because I'm just laughing at the freaking world, man. Laughing my ass off. When you step away from the truth community in chunks, and believe me, folks, I step away from everything. I don't know what's going on in the world. I don't listen to the propaganda. I don't watch the news. I step away from everything. If I want to know what's going on in the world, I watch some Red Wings highlights and some Detroit Tigers highlights. A little bit of fake sports to entertain me. I like watching a guy throw a ball 98 miles an hour. I probably always will. Sorry, y'all. Okay? It's just entertaining to me. However, that's it. I don't give a shit what's going on in the world. I don't tune in. But let me tell you, when you just turn this shit off for like 30 days or something and you come back, man, do you get just a glaring view at the dipshits. Humans are just idiots, folks. Just idiots. I'm sorry, man. It's just like, okay, wow. Yeah, so Blue Origin, anyway, I just want to talk about that. I see a little bit of that JFK technique. A little bit of wag the dog, if you will. To the masses, they're all saying the same thing. It's disrespectful to the real astronauts. Yeah, drive it home. Men went to space. Sure they did. Sure thing. Lucky the narcissist, signing off. Ask yourself, who can I help today? Most importantly, go out there and do it, folks.